Good afternoon, students. In last class, we were discussing about cylinder cushioning. The use of cylinder cushion is to give safety for the cylinders, that is linear actuators. Okay, so here the end cap should be designed to withstand the impact load due to the fluid pressure and kinetic energy of the moving parts. So uh, in order to keep the piston and end cap of the actuator in a safe position, we are actually using cylinder cushionings. Okay, so you can see this is actually the use of cylinder cushioning in a linear actuator. You can see that a plunger, a piston, and an end cap. With the help of cylinder cushioning arrangement, the intensity of the force exerted by the piston on the end cap is reduced with the help of this cushioning arrangement. Okay, so this with the, by using this method, that is cylinder cushioning method, you can actually improve the span and efficiency of the actuators. Okay, so these are the arrangement for implementing a cylinder cushioning inside a linear actuator. So this is the two conditions before piston reaches the end cap and after reaching the end cap. These are the two position of the piston while working. Okay, so here before reaching the end cap position, the exhaust flow passes freely out of the cylinder under the until the plunger enters the end cap port. So this is the situation when plunger is away from the end cap port. Okay, that these two condition is under retraction, that is returning of the piston. Okay, movement. Okay, so the most of the exhaust will flow through the end cap port, but with the help of cushioning arrangement, the plunger enters the cap and block the free flow of fluid. Now the fluid is flowing through the restricted path, causing the piston to decelerate. This is how the force exerted by the piston into the end cap is reducing. That is by creating a virtual or by controlling the pressure of the or flow of the exhaust. Okay. So this check valve allows free flow to barrel during the extension, and the rate of deceleration, that is decreasing the speed of the piston, is controlled by the needle valve. By arranging or just moving the needle valve, you can actually control the volume or amount of uh, fluid passing through exiting the cylinder. So this is the basic working condition of a cylinder with the help of cushioning system. Okay, in order to make the end cap of the cylinder safe, we are using cushioning arrangement. This is actually the cushioning arrangement. Okay, so I think it is clear to you. Now we are going to another type of cylinder. I'm again telling that cylinder is nothing but a linear actuator. Okay, so this is another type of cylinder. This is the actual diagram, and this is just a 2D representation of the telescopic cylinder. This is another type of cylinder, that is linear actuator, used when a long stroke length, that is stroke length means movement of the rod. Okay, so in case of a linear actuator, that is a cylinder, the in order to get a long stroke length and a short retracted length, that is, if we need a long stroke length and a short retractive length, this type of cylinder can be used. Okay, here the telescopic cylinder extends in stages. The telescopic cylinders are extends in stages. You can see here stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. total length is sum of all the stages, and we can actually according to need, we can actually select which stage to be extended. Okay, we can select only stage 1 only, or stage 1 plus 2, or stage 1 plus 2 plus 3. Three types of length can be obtained with the help of this type of telescopic cylinders. You can see the entire stroke length is sum of stage 1, stage 2 and stage 3, but retracted length is very small. Only this much length is retracted here. Like a ordinary cylinder, the stroke length will be equal to retractive length. You can see in the previous examples, like how much it is extended, that much amount should be returned. So if a certain application demand this condition, that is when a long stroke length and a short retracted length are required, we have to go for a telescopic cylinders. Okay. So the telescopic cylinders extends in stages, each stage consisting of a sleeve that fits inside the previous stage. You can see that there are the different sleeves that fit inside another sleeve. Okay. Okay. After that, one application for this type of cylinder is raising a dump truck bed. It is a simple application for this type of cylinders. Okay. So telescopic cylinders are available in both the single acting type and double acting models. They are more expensive than standard cylinders due to their more complex construction. You can see that there are many sleeves, many stages in operation. Okay, so compared to ordinary cylinders, this is comparatively complex, and because of the complexity, the expense is higher. Okay. So there are two types of telescopic cylinder, same as that of ordinary actuators or cylinders, both single and double acting models. This is the actual drawing of a two-stage telescopic cylinder. You can see here that on the right diagram on the right side, you can see that as a double acting cylinder, it has got two port. As an ordinary cylinder, double acting cylinder, you can see there is two port A and port B. But inside arrangement of this type of cylinder is, that is a telescopic cylinder, is little bit complex. You can see there is some partition, stage two types of piston, that is first stage piston, second stage piston, etc. So, and there is an inside port. So this entire arrangement is used to get a telescopic movement for the piston. Okay. So you can simply understand by the working by connecting it with a hydraulic or pneumatic setup. You can see here that when fluid enters through this point, that is if the fluid if this arrangement has to extend, that is want to go outside, that is piston have to move to right, then the fluid have to enter through port B. When fluid enters through this port, according to the pressure value of the fluid will exert a certain magnitude of pressure inside this entire cylinder. Okay. So if the magnitude of pressure is at a certain value, the second stage piston will not move. I mean that for moving the second stage piston, imagine the pressure must be nearly almost 600 Pascal. Okay. 600 bars. Okay. I think that much, I said this much pressure should be exerted for second stage piston for moving. But if the pressure was less than that value, the stage 1 piston will move. Okay. If I was initially inletting the fluid pressure of around 300 range, then the only piston one will move to outward direction. So if I want to move the second stage also, I will increase the pressure to the value that should be higher than that of initial value of second stage piston. Okay. And by controlling the port A, that is the when fluid enters through the port A and stops entering through the port B, the retraction movement can be controlled, similar to that of the extension movement. Okay, I think it is clear to you. There are different magnitude or threshold values for pressure for movement of stage 1 piston and stage 2 piston. That is how they are working. I think it is a basic idea how to this is a logical concept. That is this stage 1 piston need lesser pressure to move. If that pressure is given as inlet, then it will extend. And if the second stage piston has to move, then higher magnitude of pressure should be given as inlet. Okay. So I think it is clear to you. So moving on to next type of cylinder, it is called a tandem cylinder. It is used as a tandem cylinder shown in the figure is used in the application where a large amount of force is required from a small diameter cylinder. If we have a application that we have only a space for a small cylinder, but we need more force, that is more force is to be given to the piston, then we have to go for this type of cylinders, that is tandem cylinders. The pressure is applied to both the piston resulting in increased force. This is the arrangement. You can see that for each partition there is separate inlet port and separate outlet ports. I mean separate extension port and separate retraction port. Okay. So by controlling the inlet and exhaust, you will get a more pressurized output to the piston. Okay, so this is the advantage of tandem type cylinders. According to the application or need, we are going for different types of actuators. Okay, already told, telescopic actuators is used when long stroke length is required with a short retracted length. And these type of cylinders are used when the size of the actuator must be small, but length should be higher. And we have to get a strong force at the output. Okay. In that application, we have to go for a tandem cylinders. So the drawback is that this cylinder must be longer than a standard cylinder to achieve an equal speed because flow must go to both pistons. Okay. So to get a same speed for two different cylinders, what we have to do, we have to increase the length of the tandem cylinder in order to get same speed as that of an ordinary actuator. Okay. So this is another type of actuator. Okay. Then coming on to symbols, you have to identify this and you have to just use your logic to understand. These are the symbols used for different types of linear actuators, that is cylinders. You can see from the symbol itself, you can see this is the cylinder, this is the piston, and there is only one inlet to the cylinder or one port to the cylinder. So this is called a single acting cylinder with a unspecified return. There is a return movement of the piston is not specified here. So this is unspecified return. Okay. Next is a single acting cylinder with a specified return. In this case, you can see that this is a single acting cylinder because there is only one port, okay, to the entire cylinder, and there is a piston and a rod. But here the difference is a spring is added here so that it has to return. Okay, there is no arrangement for returning here. So here they are included a spring for a return moment. Okay, so this is called this is a symbol for single acting cylinder with a spring return. Okay, so coming on to the next symbol, you can see that for this cylinder and this piston and rod, you can see there are two ports for the cylinder, one for extension and one for retraction. So you can simply understand that the double acting cylinder with a single piston rod is the symbolic representation. Okay, so coming on to next symbol, fourth symbol, you can see a single piston, a cylinder, two ports. It means it is a double acting cylinder. But you can, the difference from the third one is you can see two rods here. Okay, so this is an example for double piston rod. Okay, double acting cylinder with a double piston rod. Okay, so this is the fourth symbol. We already discussed all these types of actuators. Okay, so coming on to telescopic cylinder or double acting telescopic cylinder, you can see that there are different sleeves here. Okay, as we discussed just before, that it has got different stages of operation, that is with the help of sleeve arrangements. Okay, so this figure, this symbol represents different sleeves and a two port. So this entire symbol represents a telescopic cylinder with a double acting arrangement. Okay, you have to identify these types of cylinders. We have to picturize this for making a circuit, graphical symbol circuit. Okay, so coming on to telescopic cylinders, single acting type, there is only one port here. That is the only difference. Sleeve is there, but only one port is there. Okay. Here also the return mechanism is not represented here, but you can simply write it as telescopic cylinder with a single acting. Okay. So coming on to seventh type, you can see at the end of the piston, one side of the piston, there is a cushion. So this arrangement with a two port, one cylinder, one piston and a rod with a cushion at the one side of the piston, it is called double acting cylinder, fixed cushion on one side. Okay, this is the graphical symbol. Okay, then the eighth one is double acting cylinder with a variable cushion on one side. You can see an arrow mark at the through the middle of the cushion. That is nothing but variable cushion. Okay. So coming on to ninth one, double acting cylinder with a variable cushion on both sides. You can see here that there are this cushion is placed at both sides of the piston, and it is also a variable. So the double acting cylinder with a variable cushion on both sides. This is the graphical representation. So up to here your linear actuator, also called cylinders, is over. Okay, hydraulic as well as pneumatic is over. If the cylinder or the arrangement is driven with the help of hydraulic system, it is called hydraulic cylinders. If it is driven with the help of pneumatic system, it is called pneumatic cylinders. Okay, I think we can stop about the linear actuator here. Now we can go for rotary actuators. Okay, rotary actuators are also called as motors. If it is driven by hydraulic, it is called hydraulic motors, and if it is driven by pneumatic system, it is called a pneumatic motors. Okay, so we are going to discuss about rotary actuators. Okay, so when hydraulic motors are actuators that can rotate continuously, and they have same basic configuration as a pump. Okay, it has got a hydraulic motors has got a same configuration as that of a pump, but the difference is you have to identify the difference. Okay, instead of pushing on the fluid as pumps do, the motors are pushed upon by the fluid. Okay, that is the difference. Okay, you have to understand it. Okay, in this way, hydraulic motors develop a torque and produce continuous rotary motion. In case of hydraulic motors develop a torque and produce continuous rotary motion. I think this is just a basic definition of a hydraulic motor. Hydraulic motor or simply rotary hydraulic actuators are nothing but a device which will produce a rotary motion as an output by with the help of either hydraulic system or a pneumatic system. That is the basic definition or basic statement regarding a rotary actuator. Okay, so coming on to types of hydraulic motors, you can see that there are three basic types of hydraulic motors. They are gear motor, vane motor, and a piston motor. Gear motor and vane motor, you are already familiar with it in your fluid mechanics subject. You may remember, you might understand when you see the figure. So coming on to gear motor, this is the diagram of a gear motor. You can see two gears, one inlet port and an outlet port and a casing. So this is the basic arrangement of a gear motor. Okay, here motor means nothing but is a actuator. Okay, I already told that hydraulic motors are actuators which is driven with the help of hydraulic system. Okay, you should not confuse it with the actual motor, electric motor. This is just a hydraulic motor. So gear is using here. So simply we are saying it as gear motor. Okay, this is not an electric motor. This is just a gear motor. Okay, hydraulic motor. Okay, so coming on to gear motor, you can see that fluid enters at the top and pressurize the top chambers. Okay, this is the top section of a gear motor, and fluid enters the top and pressurize the top chambers. The fluid enters through from the bottom and reaches the top and make a high pressure region here. Okay, pressure is applied to two gears facing at X and a single gear face at Y. Okay, I will explain it. Here it is actually creating a high pressure region. You can see the points X and Y. Actually, what happening is pressure is applied to two gear faces at X and a single gear face at Y. You can see that gear has face, right? Gear teeth. You can see here. This is the face of. I think you can see the mouse pointer. This is the face of the gear. That inside depth is actually the thickness of the gear is the face of the gear. So there is an imbalance. Okay. So when the pressure is applied to two gear faces at X and a single gear face at Y, you can see that a high pressure region will be created at X and a low pressure region will be created at Why? So this pressure difference will be generated here, and due to the pressure difference, the gears will rotate. That is the basic working principle of a gear motor. Simple thing is, due to the fluid pressure, the gear is rotating. So this rotating movement is taken as output. Hence, the fluid pressure is converting into the output of the rotation. Okay. So leakage occurs in the gear motor at a low speed. So these gear motors are used for medium speed and low torque application. We cannot use these types of motors at a very high speed. If we use these motors at a very high speed, there is a chance for leakage. So this type of gear is limited to low torque and a medium speed application. Okay. So this is the basic idea of a, you just understand, with the help of a pressurized fluid, they are actually creating a pressure difference. Okay. With the help of casing and gears. Okay. Then this pressure, after creating this pressure difference, you know that there is a chance for movement of fluid from high pressure to low pressure. So from higher pressure to lower pressure, there will be a driving force. Okay, that will move the gear into a certain direction. That is how we are getting a rotary motion. Okay. Okay. Then coming on to vane motors, the construction of vane motor is shown here. It has got a high. This is the shape of a vane motor. This is a cam ring. The circular thing is a cam ring. This is a high pressure fluid region. This is a low pressure fluid region, and this is vanes held out by spring or hydraulic setup. That is, this is vanes. Vanes means just a blades. Okay. So vane has high pressure on one side and low on the other side. That similar to that of a gear pump. This fluid is creating a high pressure at one end and creating a low pressure at the other end. How it is creating? You can simply think here that the area for the fluid flow is at this section. That high pressure section is low, so the pressure will be higher. When it reaches the vanes, it will expand. It has got a certain volume to expand, and when it leaves through the exit port, the area is comparatively higher, so the pressure will be lower. With the help of this expansion of fluid, the vane motor is actually creating rotary motion as output. Okay. So the construction of vane motor is already shown there. And in this vane motor, leakage is less than the gear motor at a lower speed. There will be leakage, but it is comparatively lesser. Okay. So the side loading occurs on the shaft of a single vane motor like the vane pump. And these forces can be balanced by using a dual design similar to a balanced vane pump. Okay, these are the design aspect of the vane pump, but we are we should not be bothered about it, but we have to understand how the vane pump is working. It consists of a vane held out by spring or hydraulic arrangement, and it got a cam ring, a high pressure inlet and low pressure inlet. The area of high pressure inlet should be smaller, and there should be free space inside the casing, and the area of the outlet pressure port should be comparatively higher than that of high pressure port. Okay. So vane has high pressure on the one side and low on the other side, so that this vane will rotate inside the casing. That is how it is producing the rotary motion. Okay. I think it is almost clear to you. You can simply Google the heading, that is a vane motor.
You can see many pictures and GIF or small YouTube videos how the working is actually happening. Why? Because with the help of a figure, we cannot understand completely how it is moving or how it is rotating. So you can simply search the topic. This syllabus is very small, so you can simply search the topic and find how it is working. Okay, this is the basic principle. I already explained about the basic principle. So you have to, if you want to understand more, you can just simply Google the heading Vane motor. You can see many videos, GIFs, or pictures, so that you can understand a clear idea about this. So the third type of rotary motor is piston motor. In case of piston motors can be either fixed type or variable displacement type. This is the figure for a piston motor. This is the figure. Okay. Okay. They generate torque by pressure acting on the ends of the pistons reciprocating inside the cylinder. They are actually generating torque by pressure acting on the end of the piston reciprocating inside a cylinder. This is the basic idea of a reciprocating, that is a linear actuator's basic principle. Okay, they generate torque by pressure acting on the ends of the piston reciprocating inside a cylinder block. You can see in the figure that there is a reciprocating cylinder or a piston inside cylinders. Okay. Okay. So for understanding it clearly, they generate a torque by pressure acting on ends of the piston reciprocating inside the cylinder. So coming to the next point, the piston motors are generally more efficient and give more torque, speeds, and powers. So we have to give some importance to this type of rotary motor. Okay, that is piston motor is comparatively more important than other vane motor and gear motor. Okay, so there are two types of piston motor. One is a radial design that is similar to that of a pump, and inline design that is axial design. Okay, so there are two types of design for a piston motor. Okay, so the speed of the piston motor can be altered by adjusting the angle of swash plate. There is a we can identify from the figure, and hence the swash plate angle determines the volumetric displacement. So these are the important parts of a motor. You can see the outlet port here, an inlet port here, and the oil under pressure at the inlet port. Okay, so these are the important components of the motor. Okay, so here this is the piston sub-assemblies. There are a number of piston sub-assemblies inside this piston motor. Okay, the piston shoe plate and cylinder blocks rotate together. The drive shaft is splined to the cylinder block. So this is the arrangement of a piston motor. Okay, so this is the swash plate. By changing or adjusting the angle of the swash plate, okay, there is a drive shaft here and a shoe retainer plate here, and the piston thrust is transmitted to the angle swash plate, causing rotation. The piston is actually creating a thrust which is transmitted to the angle of the swash plate, causing the rotation. These are the arrangement of piston. Okay, inside a piston motor. Okay, there is many number of pistons and that cylinder assembly. Okay, inside a piston motor. Okay, so this is how the rotary motion is obtaining. So the pressure exerted on the ends of the piston which reciprocate in a cylinder block. That is the basic idea of piston motor. The motor drive shaft and cylinder blocks are centered on the same axis. That is the basic idea. motor drive shaft and the cylinder blocks are centered on the same axis. Okay, you can see it in the figure. It is a certain type of complex arrangement here, but working is comparatively simple. Okay, with the help of a certain arrangement of the mechanism, we are getting the rotary motion as output. Okay. So pressure at the ends of the piston causes a reaction against a tilted swash plates and rotate the cylinder block and motor shaft. Actually, the different piston cylinder is exerting force or thrust on this swash plate at a different time. That is how the swash plate is rotating. That rotation is transmitted to the drive shaft. Okay, that is how the piston motor is working. So the torque is proportional to the area of the piston and is a function of the angle at which the swash plate is positioned. Okay. So this is just a mechanical arrangement of a series of piston and cylinders which is connected to a inclined plate disc. Okay. So that is how the pressurized fluid will create a rotary motion. This is comparatively important than that of other rotary actuators. Okay. So these are the basic things you must understand when you consider a motor. That is, hydraulic motor performance is studied by the 3 efficiency parameters of a hydraulic pump. These are the parameters of efficiency. We have to understand this to get a clear idea. First one is volumetric efficiency. Volumetric efficiency is nothing but theoretical flow rate that a motor should consume divided by actual flow rate consumed by the motor. Theoretical flow rate divided by actual flow rate is volumetric efficiency. Okay. Next is mechanical efficiency. It is actual torque delivered by motor divided by theoretical torque. That is mechanical efficiency. And overall efficiency is nothing but the product of volumetric efficiency and mechanical efficiency. Okay, this is the basic parameters you must understand when you talk about a hydraulic motor. Okay. So today I'm winding up here.